as far as it used to, you're not wrong. Because it isn't. I'm not talking about like micro trends for this month to month, like this temporary Iran conflict, little spike we were having. That's going to go back down. I'm talking about substantial shifts in the cost of living over the last 60, 70, 80 years. We've talked about the Federal Reserve, and that's neither federal nor does it have any reserves that controls the value of your money, which is its own problem. But let's go back to the 60s through, I don't know, the 90s. I wish I knew I was in the good old days in the 90s, by the way, with like out a cell phone, nobody's videotaping the stupid stuff I was doing. I wish I knew I was in it when I was actually in it rather than looking back at it. But the average college tuition in the 60s was $1,500 a year, and the average salary was like $5,000 to $6,000 a year. And people could legitimately live a very comfortable life with his stay-at-home mom and his single income. Disneyland was $1.50. Entrance now is 100 times that. A haircut, $1 to $2. Gallon of milk was under 50 cents. The average monthly rent was $98 a month. That's a month. That's 4 drinks in Manhattan now. You could go buy a car back then in 1960, Gucci'd out, white wall tires, actual real leather seats, wooden steering wheel, under $3,000. And the average home was like $12,000 to buy. Soup to nuts. What happened? Well, in large part, the government. The biggest drain on the value of your money is government, printing more of it. Since leaving the gold standard, our money has completely cratered. In 1960, gold was for $35 an ounce and would have cost you 343 ounces to buy the average home. Now, the average home is drastically more expensive at $417, but only 83 ounces of gold at $5,000 an ounce. This is in part because government made risky loans possible, i.e. 2008, but they're still doing it, for people who didn't have income requirements, and we let 40 million illegals into this country, gave them subsidies for living, creating a supply crisis. Again, government created problem, but also nobody knows how to build stuff anymore, and they have to hire someone to put on an outlet cover or to flip a circuit breaker. A substantial part of the country used to be able to build at least part or some of all of their own house. In the 60s, the owner's manual of your car used to explain how to adjust the distributor cap. Now it just tells you not to drink the contents of the battery. Let's bring it closer to our immediate future, though. In the year 2000, the average house was $119,000. A beer was $2. The average salary was $42,000 a year. Now the average home, like I said, $417,000 a year. A beer's $6. Not in the city. I think I paid like $14 for one beer in New York the other night. In Connecticut, my energy cost has quadrupled in 25 years. The salary has just not even doubled. Costs are up over 200-300% in some sectors, yet the median salary in America has not even remotely doubled. That's because the cost of doing business has doubled, mostly because of government. They have inserted regulations and permits and fees, and these things are completely unnecessary, but they make it more expensive. We told you about this in California as a perfect example of people just trying to build their homes after the state let it burn down. First, then, you have to contend with the EPA. Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, Safe Drinking Water Act, Resource Conservation Recovery Act, Marine Protection Research and Sanctuaries Act, Toxic Substance Abuse Control Act. Any issue that arises during this process will take time to fix, which means that development on the building in question will be delayed by a substantial amount. CEQA, that's the California Environment Quality Act. It is a doozy. This is their tree flow chart that you can follow along, so it helps you understand the process. I mean, that looks simple enough, right? Building permits in California rose by 430% from 2008 to 2018, and they kept going up from there. Rest assured, if you at any level received any state funds, they will likely include some sort of dumb DEI requirements. You're gonna have to hire some LGBTQ chapter president with a pink hammer on your construction crew. It's gonna be owned by a woman of color, and you gotta be a midget. Businesses have to comply with all that. So they have to hire somebody who knows how to do it internally or externally, which makes the cost of them doing business, like a plumber who needs, I don't know, maybe a lawyer to comply with the new regulations. He has to cover that to charge on those costs. Environmental groups, they have made it nearly impossible to drill for oil. That's increased dramatically. And every time they make a new regulation in the government, they need to hire more staff that costs more taxpayers in that said department to monitor your compliance that no doubt will have a fine if you don't do it properly. You folks, you do not hate government enough. Oh, The only answer to this is less government, which is why I will vote for a potato over a Democrat. Remember that the government steals 50% of your loot in taxes every year after already stealing 50% of the value of your dollar over the last 20 years. Folks, this is something that cannot be tolerated. And when you go to the ballot box, it's just like in New York when all the women were like, oh my God, safety is the #1 issue in New York. And then they voted for the guy who's like, I'm going to close down Rikers Island and put all the criminals in your backyard. This is unbelievable. There's such a detachment between liberals and even centrists now and the reality and the consequences of their actions. Whatever. What do I know? Before we go, America gearing up for its 250th birthday, but not in Rutland, Massachusetts, despite raising funds for those festivities.